Hey everyone, I hope you're excited about this project. I think it'll be a lot of fun. What we're going to talk to right now about is storyboarding. Storyboarding may seem like an unnecessary step and that you can just move right on to your animation. But I'll tell you what, I have a very strong testimony, I guess, about storyboarding. It really saves you a lot of time in the end, and your project will come out looking a lot better if you take the time to sketch out your animations, write down your script. It'll make a big difference in your end product. Okay, what I've chosen to do is the airy wave theory. I thought that would be a fun thing to do in Hawaii since we have lots of waves here in the ocean. And there's a theory behind how waves work. It's a linear theory. It doesn't completely describe waves, but it's interesting, I think. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of details of airy wave theory, but this is how a storyboard might work as you try to describe your animation. And that's what a storyboard is. It's just a description of what an animation looks like, and how everything is going to work. Now you can see the requirement reminder at the top. It tells you all the things that you have to have in your storyboard. But I'm going to kind of explain a little bit more about that. I want you to have a start frame, have as many playing frames as you need to describe your animation and make sure you have all your dialogue in there. But also I want you to include a pause frame and a stop frame and what it looks like at the end of your animation. So make sure you include those, okay? So don't skip those frames as you go through. What I'm going to show you right now is the start frame of my animation, playing two of the playing frames. Okay, so the first one you can see here, this is basically how my animation is going to look. In order to describe airy wave theory, I've obviously got to have waves, but I've also got to have these little particles in the ocean to show what happens to the water as air moves across the ocean and causes waves. And I've got three particles here. I've got a surface particle, a shallow particle, and a deep particle. And what airy wave theory basically says, as the particles go deeper, their motions flatten out and shorten. So as things are at the top, they move in a bigger circle. And as things get deeper in the water, those motions flatten out. So over here, I've got my so this is going to be my dialogue for my start frame. So there's going to be a dialogue there before the user ever starts the animation. And it says, waves don't just appear on the surface. Air moving across the ocean stirs water at great depths, and there is a pattern to this stir. Okay, and my action here, my animation action, says that there's no action. Animation is awaiting user input to start, and I don't have any sound effects yet either. Okay, and I move on down to my next frame here, and I've labeled this one playing one. I've got the title up here, and you can see on the first frame I put greater detail into what all these texts will be. Here is ellipse height, horizontal distance, distance to height ratio. And in explaining airy wave theory, all these three numbers are going to be important. And these numbers are going to update as it's going to be dynamic. And as we get into the tutorials about dynamic text, then you'll see more of that. Okay, so as the animation begins to play, these particles are going to start to move in a kind of an ellipse or a circle. As it gets deeper, these circles flatten out and they become less. The distance becomes less, and I've labeled my wave direction here as well. Here's my dialogue. As air pushes waves on the surface particles move with the wave, but in an orbital fashion. Waves move from, and then the action is waves move from left to right, particles move in an orbital fashion, and then the numbers up here are calculating the ellipse height and the horizontal distance that the particle is moving, and then that ratio between the two. And I have a sound effects I want to use, and that's going to be wave splashing. Okay, now the last one that I'll show you, let me move this down a little bit. The last one that I'll show you is this playing 2. Oh, also you can see when I'm playing, I've got spots here for my pause and restart buttons, whereas in the first frame it was a start button. So you'll need to make sure you show that, so you have a place planned for these buttons, and you're not, when you're making your animation, you're not having to worry about placement and all those things. And storyboarding is really designed to help you with that. It's to take care of placement so that when you're doing the animation, you can worry about animating things and more the technical side and not have to worry so much about the design of things. Okay, so area wave theory, here's all the text, the motions, and here's the dialogue. Particles that are at a greater depth from the surface also move the wave, but at a lesser distance. And then waves continue to move in a left to right fashion. Particles are drawing ellipses. Deepers are flatter. You can't really see that flatter over there. And the sound effects is going to be, again, the wave splashing. Now I'll probably need a couple more playing storyboards that continue with my dialogue and continue with that until the dialogue is finished. And I would talk about in animation actions, things continue to loop. These numbers are calculated. Talk about why the ratio is important. So use the storyboard to really describe your animation and get a very clear idea in your mind of actually how this animation is going to work and how the simulation is going to work. I think that's about it. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. The more detail you can give it, the more time it's going to save you in the end. So please take time on these and really think these through. I find in my storyboards, the thing that storyboards affect the most and influence the most is, one, the design. It really helps out with design and how things are going to be laid out. You can think about things that you maybe didn't know were going to happen beforehand, before beginning the storyboarding process, and it saves you a lot of time in solving problems when you're doing your animation. But another thing that really helps is really get down your dialogue and what you're going to say as you explain the simulation. So I look forward to seeing these storyboards. This is a heavy part of your design document, so please take the time necessary to do a good job. I look forward to seeing them again, and talk to you soon. Bye.